told you once, we told you twice. You didn't listen to our advice, now you know. You had to find out for yourself. You wouldn't listen to no one else, now you know. How's everything looking now? Oh, from the outside after all that's been going down. Are you ready to see? You thought you had it all figured out. It looked different inside your mind. We're just trying to save you from some misery. Yeah. Now you know. All right, so we're back. This is Everybody's Talking with Kevin Derryberry, a Seraphic Sound Studio podcast. And my guest, as you can see on the split screen, is my good friend Rick Burgess from the Rick and Bubba Show. And Rick, we were just talking about your first band and how you came up with all the equipment.
Yep.
At 17, you got a $700 loan from the bank.
Yep.
Did your parents know about the loan?
They did. And they said as long as I
Okay.
was responsible with it, we could do what we want to. And I will give them credit. That same living room that I did my fake radio shows in, we set our equipment up in there in that little tiny house.
Yeah.
And remember what I said before we took a break?
Yeah.
We didn't know how to play anything. So we're working it out.
So
now we're working it out.
It worked.
You're right. So we literally, and you said this when you and I had our talk, which I didn't know about you because you're really, really talented musically. We just started listening to the songs and started to see if we could find on the instruments
the notes,
or the beats.
Yeah.
And so we started working that out, and we realized pretty quick that if you were going to play a cover song, it had to sound like it.
Oh, yeah.
But if you did an original, there wasn't no way to mess that up.
You know? Right, exactly.
And so we started doing originals really, really early, not because we were gifted, because we weren't gifted.
Yeah.
You know, what's this song? All right, that's our song. You know, and we'd work something out, and I'd do some lyrics to it. I'd do the lyrics. The guys would do the music, and we'd work together on the arrangement. So I remember the first day somebody came in, we were finally learning how to play, and it was one of the guys in the band's brother. And we were playing a song that was ours, and he said, "Man, who is that?" Oh. And we said, "I said, what's that?" That's our own thing. He said, "No, really, who is it?" And I said, "No, we just made that up in here." And it was a song called "The Age of Miracles," because you know we're 17 now, so we got to get deep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Oh well, you got. And I get that legal pad out. One of my dad's coaching legal pads, and I'm writing these lyrics that I just know the whole world's got to hear.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You know?
Everybody's feeling this.
Yeah, everybody's feeling this. So anyway, we can't do the whole story. So we learned how to play, played some parties and in the neighborhood, that kind of stuff. First time we played, we didn't even have enough songs. We played parts of songs.
Yeah,
like we knew You Really Got Me, kinda. You know what I mean? And we couldn't play the whole song, but we played some of it.
So you try to do like medley.
Yeah, and all you buddies were like, "Oh, that's awesome," And
then you'd stop.
Yeah, then you stop. Go, look at this right over here, and you play a little bit of that. So it wasn't a full set or anything like that, but it was it was Cynthia East's birthday party, so who cares?
Come on.
Yeah. So anyway,
did the police come?
Yeah. Oh yeah, shut you down because you're too loud.
Yeah.
Over time, we developed a real band that could actually play and started, getting some gigs and doing all this. So we were actually playing and we added a keyboard player.
Yeah.
So we actually and I would do things. So this is back to me as a little boy. So if you act big time, nobody knows the difference.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times when you get into music, you get into radio, you get in the entertainment business, the biggest mistake you make is doing it for people who are already in the business too.
Right.
They're never going to like you anyway because they can't stand you.
Yeah.
I don't play for other musicians.
Yeah.
They're probably better than you anyway.
Yeah.
But they're going to stand in the back of the room, cross their arms, and critique what you're not doing right.
Mm-hmm.
But are the people responding? Are they having a good time?
Exactly.
Do they like what you're doing?
Yeah.
That song's not complicated, so what? Everybody likes it. There's been a lot of big bands that made a lot of money and done real well
off simple songs.
Yes. And so
Jimmy Buffett comes to mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, a lot of the Rolling Stone stuff is but anyway, so
it's getting simpler every day.
Yeah, right. And so we started, putting together a full set and I would do things like book the local civic center. I was now working in radio on the campus radio station at Jacksonville State University, where I'm now like 20, okay? And so So I would get on the campus radio station and promote this band that you had to go see, Mystique.
Oh yeah.
Of course, I'm in the band too, but I'm
go see them.
Yeah, got to go. And so we did the Civic Center on a New Year's Eve for $3 a person, and let people come to the Civic Center. You know, these were kids that were not old enough to go to bars or anything like that, and we drew like over 1,000 kids
Really?
to come and see a band that nobody's ever heard of. But we convinced everybody, oh, of course you have. Of course you've heard of Mystique. You can't miss that.
I mean, the name alone.
That's right. And we did things that were so dangerous. We created our own pyro over just taking wires and taking the protective fireproof stuff off of it and throwing gunpowder on it and firing a charge to it.
No.
Oh, yes. We had.
I believe it.
Yeah, we made lights out of floodlights inside these boxes. You know, and where the floodlights came from, we probably shouldn't say, but, you know, because there were a lot of signs with colorful floodlights on them that were easier to get than pay for them.
Yeah.
Well, look, we're not
Y'all
proud
heard
of
it right here, folks.
Yeah, sorry
Now
about
you
that.
know.
And now you know why all the signs in Oxford, Alabama were missing lights. So anyway, we do that, and it gets to rolling. We start getting real gigs. Signed with one of the, probably knew Mac Rudd,
Yeah.
Encore Entertainment,
Yeah.
and he had us playing something down at Panama City Beach.
And how old were you by then?
By now, I'm 20, 21.
And this is the same group of guys?
Same group of guys. So we go down to the beach, and we're playing down there, and a guy sees us, because it's different then.
Yeah.
Much harder then.
Yeah.
If somebody doesn't see you and ask you to want to take you in the studio, there was no, I'm going to go in my room like we're sitting in and cut my own album.
Right.
You couldn't get your music recorded.
Yeah, you had to have bucks.
You had to have big bucks. And so the guy comes up and he says, all right, how much of that set was original songs? And we told him. And he said, you guys we weren't all that talented, but we knew how to work a crowd.
Right.
And at this point, we now have a new drummer because we did a gig one night and our PA was so bad. The guy that had the really good voice, our bass player, he couldn't sing loud enough. Nobody could hear him. And I was the one who would sing in practice so everybody could hear us from the drums. Well, they said, let Greg play the drums because he could play drums. We'll go one guitar. You get out front and sing Metal Health by Quiet Riot and Come On Feel the Noise, and because at least people can hear you.
Yeah.
So I get out front, and I get the lead singer gig just because I can be heard. I mean, and of course, I got, now the little P.T. Barnum boy is out front.
Oh, gosh. Yes,
and I'm working everybody into a
Yes, he
frenzy.
is.
And they told me after that, said, we're hiring a drummer. You need to stay up there.
Yeah.
And so that was the end of my musicianship as a very average drummer. So I become the lead singer. And I'm out front working the crowd.
Yeah.
And, got my hair out like I like it, and all this stuff. We just think that ain't nobody cooler than us,
Did you make any money?
No. This is before Jesus, so our money would kind of disappear back into the band.
It would disappear for the at your tab.
Yeah, this was all before Jesus. I remember one time walking in, and I remember you being in a band that had a similar arrangement. I walked in one day and I said, I have good news and I have bad news. Have I told you this before?
I don't think so.
But anyway, so the guys in the band said, well, what is the good news? And I said, Budweiser has just agreed to make us one of their bands, and they're going to give us all the beer we want. And somebody said, well, what's the bad news? I said, Budweiser has decided to sponsor the band, and they're going to give us all the beer we want.
Yeah,
that was the bad news, too.
That was the bad news.
Right.
The good news.
And so anyway, he comes
no
up
money, just beer.
Yeah, that's right.
I remember those days.
So anyway, he comes up to us and says, I think you guys have something. I'd like to take you down to River City Studios in New Orleans and record you.
Well,
just a demo, go down to do 2 or 3 songs. Okay, so we all set up and we go to New Orleans. We do all that. Well, before we go to New Orleans, what are they going to do? They run a search. Is the name Mystique available?
Oh.
And it wasn't.
Somebody already
had it.
So y'all changed it to Mistake?
Everybody's after that great name. So anyway, we're just sitting around at the hotel, and the guy says, you got to have a name of your band before you get here. And so I don't even remember how it even happened, but I remember there was somebody had, because we all had the 80s hair and stuff. Remember the 80s hair?
Yeah.
So there was you remember the hairspray White Rain?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember that aerosol? So I look over and we see this, and I certainly couldn't name it that because that could come off as a bad connotation. So I look, it's something about that clip, and I said, what do you think about Silent Rain? Silent Rain. And then I remember, I don't remember who it was in the band. They said, "Ooh, but we'll spell rain Raign, not Rain.
Oh yeah.
Not like falling rain. We're silent rain." And I don't know what we were raining over, and how it was silent. You know what I mean? Of course, that led to marquees everywhere. Tonight, silent rage. You know, people getting your name wrong. You probably went through that too with all your different bands. Because just because you got to play a gig don't mean they got your name right on the marquee.
Mm-mm.
You know it. And so we, but unfortunately, and fortunately at the same time, and Greg has said, my brother, that he said he thinks that maybe God used this to maybe save our lives.
Yeah.
Is the guitar player who was our dear friend that we grew up with said his chest was bothering him. After we'd loaded equipment, so he thought he just kind of pulled something in his chest. And we made the recording, and we were very excited about it. And there was some. I'm not saying we were about to sign a record deal, but there was momentum,
Yeah.
And our stuff was getting heard by people that could possibly do something. And he kept on saying it was hurting him. He said, "Well, I'm gonna go to the doctor." And he comes back. We're doing a photo shoot, and because they're trying different stuff, and he's just as white as a sheet. And he said, "I've got cancer."
Oh,
and we're like, "Cancer at 22 years old, And so at that point, he's got to have treatments, and we're all buddies. We're not to the point where we go, "All right, you're fired. We'll get another. You go work it out. We'll replace you." I mean, we're young guys that are a bunch of buddies from small town Alabama, you know. And so we all go back home, try to figure out what to do. We enter the Seagram's talent search just to have some gigs going. We actually win it, as one of the up and coming bands in the South. Get some equipment. Remember they used to do those contests.
Yeah.
But eventually it gets so bad that he does not survive, and he died.
Good grief.
And so at that point, the band kind of dispersed. Greg didn't want to be part of it. He and Greg were really, really close, and I was close to him too, but he and Greg were the same age. They were very close. So Greg said, "I'm out," and so that was kind of the end of the band run. But then I, as just a singer, foolishly, because I was not a follower of Christ at the time, I tried to keep gigging with other bands. And then the radio thing is starting to move a little bit because I need income.
Right.
And at one time, I was trying to play in bands at night, Thursday through Saturday, while doing a show. And that was working okay when I was doing afternoons. But when they moved me to mornings.
Yeah, that was hard.
And that didn't really go well for my health and well-being. And so eventually I had to pick, and I picked radio because it had more potential.
Yeah.
And at least I was making money doing
money
radio.
Doing that, yes.
And then after that, to kind of wrap up the band thing, years later, when the show started gaining some momentum, one of the general managers we worked for said, "Didn't you used to play in bands?" And I said, "Yeah." And, I was coming to see you and all this. We were all playing some of the similar stuff. And he said, "Why don't you put together a band again, and we can use it as a promotion on the show." And, there's all kinds of clubs that would love to buy some big package with us because they know you're going to promote it on the show, pack the place out. So that's when Mr. Lucky came about, and it did not start off as we were still pretty rough guys then. But and when I became a follower of Christ, which we'll talk about, all that kind of changed. But he still said, "Well, you got some original songs." And I said, "Yeah, there's only one original that made that album that I wouldn't play anymore because it doesn't reflect well on my faith."
Right.
But the other 8 songs, I would, they don't. There's nothing bad about them or anything like that. Nothing overly good about them. They're just kind of vanilla. And we put together the album with Mark Phillips,
right,
who produced it. Your friend and my friend,
yeah,
and his studio called Fat Chance.
Mm-hmm.
And we took 9 originals from all those years playing in bands. Ryan Greenwood became the guitar player after our friend had died. Greg came back to play bass. We then had Steve Sample played drums with us.
This is way later on.
Way later on. And we'd had some other drummers before Steve, but then Steve took over because of his connection to Mark. Because, the guys we had playing drums for us were like musicians who were saying, "I'm full-time, and you guys play once a year." maybe twice a year. So we did do Fat Chance and did a little tour of theaters, no more bars. And so that's still out there today, and it's on Apple Music. It's if you search Mr. Lucky, Rick and Bubba, it'll come up. And those 9 original songs actually were those very songs that we wrote as 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old guys. And we released them like it was the new project, from this band, Mr. Lucky, that is tied to Rick and Bubba. And, had our fun together doing Fat Fest and doing concerts and all that. And but then in 2003, I just came to the conclusion that what I was doing radio-wise had to become priority.
Yeah.
And I went to the doctor, and he told me I was developing nodules on my vocal cords.
Yeah.
And I went through a period of time where I was losing my voice because of the singing, the preaching, and the radio. And I had to get away from singing for a while. I think now I could still go back and do a little one show here or there, but I wouldn't put the wear and tear on it anymore. And I just had to make a decision that era, as far as singing in a band, was over.
Well, all right. Well, I mean, yeah, man. Mm-hmm. I was following you the whole way. Now, where in there? We'll get to that, but I remember y'all coming out to see us at Brothers Bar in Jacksonville. I remember going to the campus radio station and getting on the air with you, promoting us being in town.
Oh, yeah.
I remember paying you in beer.
That's right. There was a time, if that was the currency, I was in.
Hey, yeah. Sometimes that was all that was there.
That's right.
But that was BC, before Christ, for me and you both.
Amen.
But we're going to be back. This is Everybody's Talking with Kevin Derryberry, a Seraphic Sound Studio podcast. My special friend and guest today is Rick Burgess from the Rick and Bubba Show. So, yeah, man, I'm sorry.
I answered to Rick or Bubba.
Yeah. Which one's Bubba?
How's everything looking now? Oh, from the outside, after all that's been going down, are you ready to see? You thought you had it all figured out. It looked different inside your mind. We're just trying to save you from some misery. Yeah. Now you know.